What is journaling? How do you get started? What do you write in it? And how do you stay consistent? If these are any of the questions that you have ever asked or Googled, then this is the video for you. And let me tell you, journaling is not as complicated as it can sometimes seem online with all those beautiful bullet journal photos and advice that pretty much tells you that journaling is the solution to every problem in life. But before we begin, I want to read you a small entry from one of my journals. August 10, 2021, 10:30 p.m. Gurgaon. I'm thinking of making a video about journaling. I've been getting a lot of questions since those reels on journaling started doing really well. Questions like how to start, what to write in a journal, how to be consistent, and so on. In all honesty, before I begin to answer these questions for anyone else, I need to have clarity on what journaling does for me. Why do I do it in the first place? For me, journaling is a way to have a bird's eye view of my own life. It gives me clarity and perspective that can often get lost when you're in the middle of the good or bad times in life. Journaling lets me talk and vent about things that no one else probably cares about. As Anne Frank had written, paper has more patience than people. And it was quite literally a lifesaver in 2020. It is one of those things that kept me sane and stopped me from spiraling when shit was hitting the fan. And that is why I continue to journal. Alrighty, I think now is the right time to welcome you to the first journaling video on this channel. If you are new, my name is Adete. I make videos every week on personal development, self-discovery, and my weird, sometimes fun experiments in life. So if that interests you, consider subscribing and let's get on with the meat of the video. So let me address the first question, that is how to actually get started with journaling. If you've tried to find out about journaling online, you've come across advice that tells you that it's great for your mental health, it boosts your mood, it helps you grow, and it is probably one of the best things in life. But how do you actually get to a stage where it is that beneficial? So the first step to doing that is figuring out where to actually write. Now there are two approaches that you can take here. You can either go the pen and paper route, which is just basically using a paper and a pen. Mine is inside here somewhere. Yes. Basically using a paper and a pen. You don't even have to have a diary or a notebook. You can write straight away on A4 paper if that's your preference, and if you don't want to invest in a notebook till you're very sure that this is something that you're doing consistently. The second way is to, of course, use a digital method, which is your phone or tablet, your laptop, anything that gives you digital access to a writing platform. Now both methods have their pros and their cons. Writing in a physical journal is usually slower, so it gives you more time to absorb what you're writing, be more reflective. It's more calming as a practice. But the con is that it's not always the most easily accessible. You don't usually carry around your journal or your diary everywhere that you go, so it can be hard to jot down things when you're in the need for it or when you're in the mood for it. On the other hand, using a digital journal, especially like an app or a note-taking app on your phone, is highly accessible. It is something that allows you to record your journal entries by date, by time. You can always search for them, you can tag them. So accessibility and ease of use is, again, amazing. But the con is that because it's faster, it is usually less reflective than pen and paper entries. Now you can go ahead and try both of these out and see which one works for you. I personally use a mix of both. So whenever I am being bothered by some thought or an issue in life, and when I actually want to vent and I'm frustrated, I use my physical journal. I was using this huge one for the longest time. Jot down random thoughts, things like that. I use my Notion app either on my desktop or on my phone to just quickly, take note of anything that I'm thinking about, if it's an idea or even if it's a thought that bothers me on a very instant basis. So now that we have that sorted, and before we actually get to what to write in a journal, we first need to do a little bit of preparation to help you with consistency. So if you're somebody who wants to do journaling as a practice and if you want to get consistent with it, here are a few things that can really help you out. The first thing is to understand your intention behind starting journaling. Now, even though it is a great exercise and it has been found beneficial by a lot of people who've tried it, it is not something necessarily that everybody wants to do, and that's completely all right. If it's not something that floats your boat, don't do it. But having said that, it is definitely something that you should once try, and then if it doesn't float your boat, don't do it. So when you get started, the first thing that you want to do is understand why you're doing it in the first place. Whether you're experimenting, that's cool. Whether you want to use it as a place to vent out your frustrations, that is what I do a lot with my pen and paper journals. Or whether you want to use it as a tool to record your memories, a lot of people do that too. You can use it as a tracker for your growth, just to see how you're growing year on year or month on month, documenting your daily life. There's a whole lot of reasons why people journal. You have to figure out why you want to do it in the first place. With quarantine and with COVID, a lot of people wanted to do it because it was a means of getting their thoughts out, something that they were not able to do publicly anymore because we were not meeting our friends. And that is why I think it gained a lot of traction on the internet as well, with people realizing that it is a very helpful tool to just, let your thoughts out. Understanding your intention or understanding why you want to do this can also help you stay very consistent with this practice. The second thing that you want to do is make the process enjoyable. So for me, I'm not the kind of person who really requires very cute notebooks or very fancy pens or something, but there are a lot of people who find stationery really helps with their journaling practice. So you might want to give that a try. You could light candles while you're writing your journal. I like to switch on my yellow lamp, and that just sets the mood for me. And I usually journal at night right before bed, so it just makes the whole atmosphere really positive and nice. Sometimes I light a candle and that adds the aroma. So those are things that I like to do to make it slightly more enjoyable and turn it into an activity that is, revolving around self-care and self-love, etc. And the third thing that you want to do is make it highly accessible, especially if you're trying to be consistent with it. By accessibility, I mean put your journal where you see it the most. So like if you buy a new pretty notebook and you just keep it in your cupboard somewhere where you can't really see it, out of sight, out of mind, you're probably not going to go back to it and then realize 6 months down the line that, oh, I bought this notebook for journaling and then I totally forgot. So a better practice, and something that I initially had started doing when I'd started journaling, was to keep that journal next to my bed. I still keep it on my nightstand, and that ways I'm always aware slightly and conscious of the fact that I have this notebook right next to me for whenever I want to journal, and that has helped me stay very consistent. All right, now moving on to the question that most people on Instagram ask me is what to write in a journal. And I'm not even kidding, I get 4 to 5 people asking me this question every single day, which is why I thought it was like the right time to address it in a video. And I totally get why people ask this question as well, because it's intimidating to just have like a blank piece of paper or a blank screen in front of you and have that pressure to write something, but you don't know what to actually put on there. So first things first, start with writing down the date and the location, even the time if that's something that you prefer, and that just gives you a start. Initially when I started doing this, it seemed kind of silly, but what it does is as soon as I open my notebook, I write down the date, I write down the location, I write down the time, it just puts me in the zone that, oh, it's time to write. And that is supremely helpful to just get started and get in the flow. And I do that for all journal entries now, and I think that can be something that's really helpful for you too. And of course, it'll make the entire process seem a little less intimidating than just staring at a blank piece of paper. A lot of people also like to write down what mood they're in when they're writing this journal entry. That's something that's very helpful. You could also talk about the weather. You could talk about the exact description of the place that you're in. There are a lot of things that you can start out with to make the process slightly easier and to get into the flow. So now once you're done with that initial set of information that prompts you to write, let's talk about a few methods that can really help you figure out what it is that you can write in your journal. The first method, and something that I use most frequently, is something called free writing or brain dump. And that is essentially just writing on paper whatever it is that is coming to your mind. Think of it like you have a bag and you empty it onto the table, all contents out, and there's no order, there is absolutely no structuring, it's just whatever is in there is now out on the table, right? That's exactly what free writing is. You are just putting all of your thoughts in whatever order they're coming out on paper. There's an exercise that is closely linked to this called morning pages, and people do it right in the morning, which is you wake up and you just open your notebook and just write for 2-3 pages, whatever comes to your mind. And a lot of studies show that it's like really helpful in helping your creativity. I personally like to do this at night because that is when the whole day's frustration is at its peak, and I'm just like, I vent it out, and as soon as I put my thoughts on paper, it's just out of my head. There's so much more space for flow of thoughts, exchange of ideas and all of that, and I don't have to worry about whatever I've written in my journal. The second method, and that is something that is talked a lot about on the internet, is using prompts to start your journal. Now, prompts are nothing but questions or statements that you can use as a starter to start a dialogue or a conversation with yourself. So, for example, one thing I'm grateful for today, or what is one thing I wish people knew about me. These questions basically prompt you to think in a particular direction and therefore give direction to what you're writing in your notebook. Initially, if you have absolutely no experience with journaling, this can be really helpful to start out with. And you can just Google and find prompts for anything under the sun, whether you want to deal with daily stress, or whether you want to journal for self-growth, or whether you want to deal with anxiety. You can literally find a prompt for anything under the sun. There is, of course, this whole debate about good or bad prompts, but when you're starting out, I think experimentation is the best way to go. I will link a Pinterest board down below with some of my favorite prompts, and you can use those to get started. And if you are coming here from Instagram, and if you'd like, let me know in the comments if we should start like a daily prompt or a weekly journaling prompt exercise on Instagram stories, and then that can be helpful too. A lot of different journaling methods are actually born out of the prompting method, things like gratitude journaling or daily reflections, because they have a set number of questions as prompts, and you just give your answers to those questions and continue on with your day. The third method that I want to talk about is the most romantic of the lot. It is basically writing letters to yourself. Now, I use this technique from time to time, very occasionally, whenever I have something profound, or I think I have something profound to say, and I either want to tell it to my past self or my future self, and I will just write it down, mostly digitally now, but sometimes in my pen and paper journal, and I will write it down and I'll just leave it there. These are not letters that you send out, although you can do that as well now, especially if you want to send out letters to your future self, for example. There's this platform called Cheaty that I came across on Instagram, and what they do is basically they allow you to write a letter to yourself in the future, and you just set the date and the time, and it will get sent to you, delivered by email. I think they're also starting like a physical letter delivery service now. It'll just get sent to you on that date and time, and that is such a beautiful experience. So I just remembered this random thing, but yeah, writing letters to yourself is such a beautiful journaling practice, and you can talk to yourself about anything. Now, moving on to the fourth method that I want to talk to you guys about is making lists. Now, when it comes to writing, and I know that everybody is not a writer and writing is not everybody's medium of expression either, in those scenarios, you can actually find free writing or brain dumping very intimidating, because again, it's the same thing as staring at a blank piece of paper. So in those scenarios, making lists really helps, or just writing in the form of lists really helps. Lists like 5 things I'm grateful for today, or 5 things I wish I would have worked on today, or 5 things I did today to work on my goal. It can be 5, 10, 15, whatever it is, the number that you want. And this is also the basis of this popular bullet journaling thing that we see online on the internet today. So yeah, making lists can be very crisp, very concise way of journaling. It can be very, very quick. If you're just writing about one thing, it would probably take you 5 to 10 minutes. And in that ways, it's a very, very effective practice for people who don't want to write a lot. And despite it being lists, it is just as self-reflective. But don't for one second think that it has to be, in those formats where you are creative and you're just doodling and coloring and creating bullet journals. It really doesn't have to be that way. I never make my lists like that. I actually make my lists digitally. And if I don't have access to, let's say, my laptop, my phone, I will just use a random piece of paper to jot stuff down. To-do lists are also a part of the list system of journaling. So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now the thing to understand here is that there are no rules when it comes to journaling, as there are no rules when it comes to any creative process in life. This video is also just a form of guidelines and tips for you to get started. You will realize that once you get started, once you get a little bit consistent with it, you will develop your own methods and your own practices to journal. And that is what makes this whole thing so beautiful, because it is so individualistic. It is so concise to whoever is doing this practice that the whole experience becomes very unique to you. Now, if you want me to make a video on the precise journaling techniques that I particularly use, let me know in the comments and we can make this into a whole series. I would actually love to make a video about journaling for mental clarity and journaling for anxiety. If those are two things you're interested in, let me know, press the thumbs up button. And that was it for today's video. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.